ASMR money mentor. We'll get started in just a moment. For episode 40, now remember this week I had the water triggers. I'm not sure why it's leaking all over. That's not good. I'm still learning ASMR. Some of you may be here because of ASMR. Some of you, as you know, may be here for the money talks. Now look, I've got water all over me. What a mess. I guess I should have thought that out a little bit more. So you know what? I think instead I'll do my debt detector, because you know what? I have this uncanny ability to see dead people. Let me see. Not sure if there is any debt there or not. Could you do me a favor? Look over here. Okay. Yeah, I can usually see debt. I see a little bit, I'm not sure. For you, there's so many people here, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Okay, well. I guess you guys know if you have debt or not. Hopefully you don't like debt, or hopefully you don't have debt. And hopefully many of you have hit that emotional bottom. You're waking up and you're saying, oh my goodness, why did I spend so much money? It happens to the best of us though, unfortunately. But anyway, we are in 2016, documenting my journey over the past multiple years and what I found most useful in the years as I was going from broke to brilliant, as I always say. I didn't want to be young, fabulous, and broke anymore. I wanted to be young or younger, fabulous, and brilliant. And you know, brilliant means that you have attained or are working on attaining what I like to refer to as your personal best. We all have a personal best, and I think that's what we should all strive for. I mean, seriously, right? Don't compare yourself to other people. You've got 12 months to work with in a year. You can either spend a bunch of money and then get to the end of those 12 months and then look back and be like, why did I do this? Why did I spend so much money? Or, as you'll see in the episode that's coming up, which will be episode 41 on Friday for those of you that are watching this real time, you'll see that you can also then cross-check to your year, and I'll show you how to do that. And you can look back and go, wow, now that was a successful year. Even if the market doesn't return a positive number, that's okay. If you're putting in a lot of money sometimes people need to wake up, and I'm here to help you wake up so that you can look at your money from what I like to refer to as a 40,000 feet above, looking down, and you can have awareness to know exactly what you should do with your money. Because if you don't get a handle of your money, you know what's going to happen. Your money will continue to have a handle on you. And we don't want that. So today, I want to talk through 3 tips for catching up if you feel like you're behind with saving money. Now, last time, we talked about it in terms of my journey in 2016, because in 2016, I was able to do what? I was able to leverage the amount of money that I could put into my investments, remember? So as you guys get older, and I know many of you are in your 20s and in your 30s, you're going to get to 50 years old someday. So you want to position your life in the next 15 or so years so that when you get to age 50, you can leverage the ability to put a lot more money into your retirement accounts, because trust me, you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to be able to put as much as you can into these government-sponsored programs, especially if you have a 401k, because the numbers you can put into your 401k are substantially larger than the numbers you can put into a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. And so, tip number 1, for those of you that feel like you're a little bit behind in saving and investing, is to increase your retirement contributions. Now, as I just mentioned, these are things that we already know, but sadly, people don't take advantage of it. So right now, I want you to think about your budget, and I want you to think about, are you putting as much as you possibly can into your retirement accounts? So for those of you, for example, if you have a 401k, remember, and this is super important, I want to stress that what I'm about to say right now is so important for so many people, and it was important for me as well, that I want you to move from a mindset of percentages and move into a mindset of dollar amounts. And you might be wondering, Evan, what are you talking about? Well, you know how your employer may tell you you can put in 3%, you can put in 6%, and you'll get the company match? Yes, you definitely want to do that. But in your mind, you want to get away from thinking about percentages in terms of what you can contribute to your 401k, and start thinking more about dollar amounts. So just Google it right now. When I'm producing this, it's 2024. So we can put in X amount of dollars. I shared it on a previous episode. I don't have it in front of me right now. What was it? 18,000, I think. Go ahead and Google it. Whatever that number is, you want to start thinking, is there a way in my build-a budget that I can increase my percentage so that at the end of the year, I attain that total dollar amount? Does that make sense? Maybe, like me, you guys get a bonus every year, and so you build that into the infrastructure. Maybe your percent can be lower, but then you get a larger dollar amount, and then that goes into your 401k as well. You might have to change the percent for that pay period. So you need to be thinking critically about what's going on with your money, because sadly, so many people just say, well, I've been putting in 2%, 3%, investments they put you in based on your risk tolerance. Okay? Well, I remember talking to him, and he just said, we're going to put into 3%. And I remember thinking, oh, great, that'll be fine. I'll be fine for retirement. I wasn't even thinking about how much money. I thought, no matter how much I'm making, somehow that's just going to magically, go up to be $1 million. And no, it doesn't work that way. You have to be intentional looking at it every year. And every year the government says you can put in X amount of dollars. That's what I've been talking about on my channel, where I said you can max out your 401k. A lot of people think max out your 401k means 6% because they're thinking of the company match if they get one. Does that make sense? So no. When somebody says and gives you advice and says you should really look at your budget and try to increase your contributions, think of the total dollar amount. That's the mindset that you need to have. Okay? Alright, that's number one. Super important is to think more about dollar amounts. So the second thing I came up with, for those of you that are thinking that you're behind with saving and investing, which, by the way, most people feel that way, so don't feel bad. Most people feel that they are behind. Number two, for doing better with money, if you feel like you're behind, is simply you may need to earn more money. So that is sometimes a tough one. For me, I think I've shared with you guys before, I was never good at going out and trying to ask for money, or being an entrepreneur where I felt like I knew how to make money on my own. I was just never good at it. In fact, I don't know if I shared this with you before, I had a paper route when I was a kid, and I would have to collect. These were the days where we had to collect door to door. I'm not sure if that happens anymore, but I would knock, knock, knock on the person's door, and I felt so ashamed to be asking for money. Really, I was not a very good go-getter. I hated doing it. And in fact, once I made enough money from collecting to pay the bill back to the newspaper, many times I would just stop. I wouldn't go collect the rest of the money from my customers. Is that crazy or what? Because, the newspapers were trying to teach good money skills to kids and business skills, meaning you have a paper route, you can collect, you pay the bill to us, and then anything left over you keep. Now, if I was a real entrepreneur as a little kid, I would have been like, okay, I have 10 more houses I need to collect from, and all of that then is my profit. But I didn't think that way. I just stopped. And as I got older, I realized, Evan, you're not very good at making money. And so, one big important thing about personal finance is to know yourself. You need to know what your strengths are and what your room for improvement pieces are, also known as weaknesses, but I didn't want to say it. But we need to know what we're good at, and I knew I was not good at that. So I remember thinking I should probably not go into business for myself. It would probably be a disaster. So I chose the corporate America route, and I don't regret it at all. You guys know it was very good to me. I found a company in 1998. For those of you that are new to my channel and haven't gone back and listened to those episodes, I've been with my same company since 1998. I had 3 or 4 jobs with the company, so I didn't jump around a lot. I used to plant seeds in people's heads, like at lunch, and say, you know what, I would really like to be in that department. Sure enough, then a month or 2 later, I was interviewing. So I was a little networker in that regard. Once I found the company that I knew could treat me really well over time. That's the secret, you guys. mindset of corporate America. Find a company that you know employees have been there a long time. And if they're there a long time, chances are they're going to treat you really well if you bring value that we talk about all the time. You need to bring value to your company. If you don't bring value, they're not going to keep you. Okay? So, back to number 2 as far as a tip for catching up. If you feel like you're behind, is some of you may need to earn more money. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know if some of you are a dual income. Have you ever heard that term? A DINK, dual income, no kids. And then there's a SINK, single income, no kids. So some of you that are young married couples may need to both work, right? You know, I've heard, and if you Google it, like in the year 2024 right now, as I'm producing this, it's tough for young people to make ends meet, especially if you have children. If you've got 2 or 3 children, and it's a single income family, that's really tough, unless that single income is like $200,000 a year or more. So, sadly, perhaps because of the economy that we're in, inflation, etc., a lot of young people that are couples need to have a dual income just to make a difference. Because again, if you've got family, you're going to have more expenses than people that are single and or couples that don't have children. That's just a reality. So you need to somehow build that in your budget over time. So if you have children, that's wonderful. That's an amazing thing. It's going to cost money. And so that's going to mean that you have to earn more money. Either the 2 of you have to somehow make more money, or one of you makes more money. Maybe one of you stays home for a little while, or maybe you've got 2 incomes, but maybe one income you save and invest and you live on the other one. I've heard of couples doing all sorts of creative things like that. Not only that, but you have to practice also, as you know, which is leading into the third thing here, which I'll go ahead and segue into. As far as our third tip for catching up if you feel like you're behind, some of you may need to really cut major expenses. And I'm talking, some of you may have woken up recently, you've joined ASMR Money Mentor, you found my channel somehow, and you're intrigued by the fact that people can build wealth as a quiet millionaire, as I like to say, or the other metaphor is the millionaire next door. Very quietly, we're not flashy, we don't have expensive homes, we drive old cars, right? Those kinds of things. And so, if you're attracted to that kind of thing, we already know, for those of us that are, part of the FIRE movement, the Financially Independent Retire Early movement, just Google it if you're not familiar with that. It's a wonderful community of like-minded young people that may have higher incomes, and they sacrifice for a little while to keep their expenses down, their income up, and their savings rate is super high. And then they do that for quite a while, and sometimes then they do what is called coast fire. Have you heard that term before? Coast fire. That means, let's say you get to age 40 or 45 and suddenly you've amassed $600,000. Let's just say that that's true. Even if you stop contributing to your investments at that point and start living a little bit more, you're coasting. You don't have to put more money into those investments. That $600,000 is going to grow for another 20 years. Let's say you want to retire at 62, from 42 to 62 or whatever the ages are. If it's 15 years or 20 years, you've tried to get that engine as large as it can be That's a term known as coast fire that I kind of segued into because I get so excited talking about money. Anyway, back to the third thing that you should do if you feel like you're behind, and to consider ending our episode here for today, is to remember to maybe cut some major expenses. You may have a big house. It might be time to sell it. You may have an expensive car. It may be time to sell it. It may be smaller things like cable. I shared with you guys recently, was it last week? Yeah, I think it was last week. In 2015, when I cut cable, I don't have cable now. That saved me